Are you serious? Are you serious, guys? I'm so happy about the hostages. Hopefully, are coming home. Saddened by what happened. The Trump effect certainly is in effect. Let's face it. But so glad. But let me tell you what, the devil is in the details. Hang on a minute. All right. First of all, let's put a shout out for boostwithpaul.com. That's boostwithpaul.com. A cutting-edge 2024 study reveals nearly half of all adults in the United States have high blood pressure. And according to the CDC, only about 1 in 4 adults have their blood pressure under control, putting millions of people like you and me at risk of a heart attack or stroke. And I've had both. If it might seem like an uphill battle, but taking control of your heart and your health doesn't have to be complicated. That's why I'm starting this, guys, using this. And this is a good product. Manage your blood pressure with this product right here. Go to boostwithpaul.com. That's boostwithpaul.com. It is a triple action formula packed, clinically proven, all natural ingredients with white mulberry leaves and cinnamon bark powder. This powerful formulation is designed to help balance the blood sugar levels and healthy weight like nothing else. And it could help thousands of you out there. So don't waste any time. Go right now to boostwithpaul.com. That's boostwithpaul.com. And you'll be glad you did. Okay, now what's happening here is obviously I'm ecstatic. But the Trump effect is in effect. And we're going to be talking about that in this webinar, Trump, AI, and the Cyber Society. It is such a broad, but you know AI is a problem. You know that drones and surveillance and cyber and the new microchips and the new identification cards and all of the different mandates that we've been under in the past, all of this now coming together with travel restrictions and everything else. You and plus, of course, you want to know just how far AI has advanced and where it's going and what does that mean for you and your family. We'll be talking about all of these things, including the Trump effect around the world with the economy. We'll be talking about Greenland, Panama Canal, Canada, and really the European Union, the United Nations, the Middle East, China, Taiwan, Russia, Ukraine, and all of the other details, including the economy and cryptocurrency and the potential for the mark of the beast system. All of this in this incredible webinar called Trump, AI, and the Cyber Society. Get your tickets today. You can go to the website at paulbegleyprophecy.com and get it, or you can pick up the phone and call and order your tickets today. We got great speakers. It will be a powerful, powerful webinar, no doubt about it. And we're only 9 days away. That's it'll be July, January 24th, okay? January 24th. All right, the devil's in the details. We're epically happy. The Trump effect certainly worked. And even Donald Trump himself has come out and he has confirmed the epic ceasefire and hostage deal has been reached between Israel and Hamas. Let's take a look at how Trump sees it. And then I'll tell you how the media sees it. And then I'm going to give you the details. And then we can all figure it out. There's nothing from the White House yet. But now that's true. As I was printing this, Joe Biden just gave his speech. But the incoming president of the United States says that the peace deal has been reached in the Middle East today. So Trump came out and announced it first before Biden. As rumors broke out that Israel and Hamas had come to a ceasefire deal that will see the hostages who have been held since October 7th, 2023, be released. Donald Trump jumped in front of the official announcement and took it to his own social media outlet, and he gave the announcement. We have a deal for the hostages in the Middle East, says President Donald Trump. And he said 5 days before I'm to be sworn in for the second time. As Joe Biden's team ran down the clock to get an agreement before the 46th POTUS leaves office, Trump has been repeating for weeks that all hell will break loose if the hundreds of hostages weren't free by noon on January 20th. So he forced this. And as likely incoming Secretary of State Marco Rubio noted in his confirmation hearing, as the news broke today, Trump advisors had been working closely with the current Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, and sealing the deal, along with the Qatar government acting as the vital intermediaries. Trump said this on Truth Social. He said, "This epic ceasefire agreement could have only happened as a result of our historic victory in November, as it signaled to the entire world that my administration would seek peace and negotiate deals to ensure the safety of all Americans and our allies. I'm thrilled American and Israeli hostages will be returning home to be reunited with their families and loved ones. With this deal in place, my national security team, through the efforts of Special Envoy Middle East Steve Witkoff, will continue to work closely with Israel and our allies to make sure that the Gaza never again becomes a terrorist safe haven. We will continue promoting peace through strength throughout the region as we build upon the momentum of this ceasefire to further expand the historic Abraham Accords." Isn't it interesting that this came out as I was talking about two-state solution? "This is only the beginning of the great things to come for America and indeed the world. We have achieved so much without even being in the White House. Just imagine all the wonderful things that will happen when I return to the White House and my administration is fully confirmed, so that they can secure more victories for the United States." Now, the Qatar are set to give a press briefing. They did. I already watched it. And Qatar played a key role in this. Now, folks, let's be honest. It wasn't all the Trump team of Steve Witkoff and others. It was a collective effort between the Biden administration and the Trump incoming administration. They worked hand in hand because the Trump forced everybody's hand. When he said all hell would break loose, he forced it. Nobody wanted to go drifting into next Monday without any kind of deal put together because Trump was going to bring hellfire and brimstone upon Gaza Strip. Instead, he forced them to come to the table. It's good it happened. But Biden's administration may sign on the bottom line, but it'll be the Trump administration that has to fulfill the details of this arrangement. And that's where the devil is in the details. Since October 7th, 117 hostages have been set free. There was 100 of them released during a one-week ceasefire back in the late November of 2023, a swap for 240 Palestinians. Dozens and dozens of hostages of all ages and backgrounds have been killed since they were taken hostage 15 months ago. The apparently phased deal, this deal has 3 phases, and this pause towards a potential greater peace deal, which Trump says is expanding of the Abraham Accords. This could be the covenant with many in the Bible that is prophesied by Daniel in chapter 9, verse 27, and is reiterated and mentioned by Jesus and what takes place when it's broken by the Antichrist in Matthew 24. It's explained how the Antichrist does that when he goes into the third temple and declares that he's God. That's Paul explained that to us in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And it is John the Revelator that explains to us what happens when the beast kingdom rises. It's Zechariah in the 12th chapter who talks about Jerusalem becoming this cup of trembling, this burden stone for all people. And it is also Zechariah in chapter 14 who says that when the Jews are attacked by the world, that Christ will come and stand on the Mount of Olives and defeat the enemies of Israel and set up his millennial reign kingdom where he'll rule for 1,000 years, and people from all nations will come to worship in Jerusalem and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. That's in 14th chapter of Zechariah. So, but first, before any of that can happen, there has to be a peace deal or a covenant with many. This ceasefire is not that, but this ceasefire is a stepping stone to the signing of an Abraham Accords, which could bring about the covenant with many. Now, apparently, this ceasefire has it's a clear indication that it is the so-called Trump effect. On the same day that President Biden was giving his farewell address scheduled on cable news, went wall to wall of the deal. And Trump's cabinet confirmations were happening right now on Capitol Hill. So it's not a coincidence that all of this is coming to a head, because everyone knows there's a Trump effect. Now, what are the details? What are the details? Now, I just watched President Biden basically take credit for it, but he did say that the Trump administration had been working closely with his administration in this process. Biden did say that this deal was the exact same deal he had proposed back in May of 2024, but nobody would move on it. So what changed? Well, Trump got elected, and Trump threw down the gauntlet and said all hell will break loose if this thing don't happen. So everybody got going, and so it is true. Biden's deal that he offered in May is the deal. But what is that deal? It's not exactly the deal, because in Biden's deal, Israel was to leave the Gaza Strip and let Hamas remain in power. That's not what's going to happen with Trump in the mix. Trump is saying, the Israeli soldiers will remain in Gaza. They're going to back up and give room for people to go back to their homes. And we're going to ship a lot of aid into Gaza, and we're going to reopen their hospitals, and we're going to reopen their clinics. But the Israeli soldiers are not leaving, and the Israeli soldiers are not giving up the Philadelphia corridor, which is the border along with Egypt. That's where most of all the guns and missiles and rockets comes flowing through. That was not in Joe Biden's plan. So Joe is not being completely truthful with us, but that's why I'm saying the devil is always in the details. Now, there's a little more to it as well. This ceasefire, it's a hard-won agreement. It will also free dozens of hostages in 3 phases. The deal will take effect this coming Sunday, 24 hours before they better get it done, or the Trump's coming. So Qatar's prime minister and foreign minister, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani, and I'm not even going to try to say that twice, but Google me and see how close I came. He said in a news conference in his country's capital that under the phase deal, Israeli forces would withdraw to the Gaza border. That's right, they're not leaving. Allow the displaced Palestinians to return to their homes, and for the transfer of hostages and prisoners. Large amounts of humanitarian aid would be shipped to the enclave, and hospitals and healthcare centers would be rebuilt. In a statement, Biden said many months of intense diplomacy by the U.S., Egypt, and Qatar. My diplomacy never ceased in this efforts to get this done, the outgoing president, Joe Biden, said. He also said in subsequent on-camera remarks, Biden said he was deeply satisfied that this day had finally come. And for the sake of the people of Israel, and for the families waiting in agony, and for the sake of the innocent people in Gaza who suffered unimaginable devastation because of the war. Now, under this plan, Israel will withdraw its forces eastward from the densely populated areas of Gaza, but they will remain in Gaza on the border. Hamas, meanwhile, will release 33 hostages in exchange for 100 Palestinian prisoners who have a life sentence in Israel, according to the deal. Israel will also release 1,000 Palestinian prisoners who were not involved in the October 7th attacks, and our unspecified number of Palestinian prisoners will also be released abroad or in Gaza. So some of them are going to ship out of the area. Also, he said, we are very happy to reach a deal today to stop the aggression against our people, but unfortunately, we're unable to reach the same deal that I offered last May. In a statement, Benjamin Netanyahu's office touted that it characterized as a compromise by Hamas, and it is, because in the Biden original deal, Israel was to completely pull out of Gaza, but that's not what's going to happen. In the Trump-advised deal, Israel's soldiers will remain in Gaza along the border. Now, in light of Prime Minister Netanyahu's first stance, Hamas has backed down on its demand at the last minute to change the deployment of forces on the Philadelphia corridor. Hamas have been saying that the Israeli soldiers have got to get away from the Philadelphia corridor and leave that pathway open between Gaza and Egypt. But in the last minutes, they caved. They realized if they didn't agree, Trump was coming. The Israeli name for the narrow strip, of course, between Gaza and Egypt is called the Philadelphia corridor. However, there are still several unresolved clauses in the details, and they hope to work out those details and finalize it tonight. Prime Minister said, Israel's cabinet still has to vote on this deal. Now, Gil Dickman, cousin of the deceased hostage Carmel Gatt, told NBC News that it was very exciting to see that finally the hostages were going to return. It's also really sad to know that Carmel could have and should have been among them, but this deal didn't come in time, and she is murdered in captivity. Earlier, a diplomatic source in Washington has said that Netanyahu was preparing to meet with his security cabinet, where approval of the deal was expected quickly. He would then take the pact to the full cabinet, which is also expected to approve. And Israel's Supreme Court would have 24 hours if it wanted to permit an appeal, so that the earliest this ceasefire could go into effect would be Friday officially in Israel. The first group of hostages will be released on Sunday, 24 hours before Trump is to be sworn in. Israel launched its military campaign on Palestinians in Gaza after the Hamas attack on October 7th, 2023. They murdered 1,200 innocent Jewish civilians and took 250 hostage, with 100 still under the control of Hamas, and about 35 of them are dead. The war has shattered the Gaza infrastructure. It has destroyed the ability for that population to function, really. And 46,000 Palestinians have died, 2/3 of which are Hamas fighters. The chances for a ceasefire was vanishing until Trump stepped in. His effect of hell, all hell will break loose, has brought this deal to the table. Now, Trump pledged that all hell would break loose if Hamas doesn't promise to release the hostages by January 20th. The first phase will release 33 of them on January 19th. Initially and internationally, Israel's staunch allies have largely stood by during its war in Gaza, but the support has been coupled with some of the strongest criticism in a generation. Widespread calls for a ceasefire from the United States and others. World leaders have also strongly condemned some of the sexual violence that Hamas inflicted upon the Israeli women, as well as allegations of sexual abuse of Palestinian prisoners by members of the Israeli military, of which Israel is saying that never, ever happened. Israel's allies have been largely supportive of the proxy war against Iran, which the United States has long accused of funding this entire apparatus, both for Hamas and for Lebanon's based Hezbollah and for Yemen's Houthis. Now, Israel and Hezbollah agreed in November to halt months of deadly fighting, with a ceasefire that's largely held, and the scale and nature of Israel's offensive have drawn condemnation from abroad. We know that Israel decapitated the entire Hezbollah leadership in Lebanon and killed the top leaders of Hamas in Gaza. So the question is, here's the question. Israel is to remain in the military, will remain in Gaza during the 3 phases of releases. What they're going to do, they'll release 33 on Sunday. They'll release about another 33 at some point, and that's where I believe they're going to drag out Donald Trump and really try his patience. We'll see what that means. And then the third phase is they'll ship the bodies back. The whole time that's happening, Hamas is going to want to hang on to power. That's why they're hanging on to the live and dead bodies, because they're going to try to hang on to power, and they're going to test the resolve of Donald J. Trump, because they're not getting rid of all of them Sunday. And the reason they're not is because then they have nothing left to negotiate with. And Donald Trump is going to order that the Gaza Strip is now in the full property of Israel, and they know it. So what they're going to do is drag it out. Now, Trump wanted all of the hostages free before he got in, but he's only going to get 33, which means the Trump effect worked to start the process. But Trump is going to have to continue to put the hammer on somebody to get it done. And that'll be the question. And that's where the devil's in the details, folks. And that's where you start. And it may go into a broader negotiation, because during that point of time, Trump will also be looking at a bigger picture. He wants to get Saudi Arabia involved, not only to have a peace deal and join the Abraham Accords with some other countries with him, but he wants Saudi Arabia to pay for it. Somebody has to pay to rebuild Gaza. Trump don't want to. Israel don't want to. So he's going to try to get Saudi Arabia to do it. Saudi Arabia said they'd be willing to do it if there's a 2-state solution. Trump has said there will be no 2-state solution. That ship has sailed. I'm telling you, this is where the rub is coming. This is why we have to go to the Bible. We ask ourselves, well, what does the Bible say? Well, in Joel 3, it tells you God gets angry at some point in the last days, and he brings the whole world down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Now, if you've been in Israel, or if you've been on a tour with me, I take you to the valley of Jehoshaphat every time I go, because I start always at the Mount of Olives. I start there because that's where Jesus is coming back to. He'll stand on that Mount of Olives, so I love to start there. Then you go down the Mount of Olives to the Garden of Gethsemane. That's where Jesus prayed, and his sweat became as great drops of blood. That's also where Judas kissed him and betrayed him. It's also where Christ was apprehended by the Roman soldiers. If you kept walking past the Garden of Gethsemane, you will continue in some olive groves, but you'll be in the valley of Jehoshaphat. It's also known in a broader length as the Kidron Valley. And if you walk through the valley of Jehoshaphat and just kind of hang a little bit of a right, you're in the potter's field, or the field of blood, where Judas took his life. If you keep going on through the field of blood, you'll enter into what's called the valley of Hinnom, or the valley of the slaughter. And that's where thousands of Jewish children were sacrificed to Moloch. And it's also where as you keep going, you come into part of the valley of the giants and the valley of the Nephilim. This is where the Nephilim were at one point. Matter of fact, if you keep going, you'll run right into a street that's called Nephilim Street, okay? So, Rephaim, I think it's called actually Rephaim, okay? So, and that's interesting, because if you keep on driving down that street, you'll run into the United States Embassy. Anyway, I'm just telling you that because it's not a big place. It's not a big place. You can walk in. We could walk from the Mount of Olives. We could walk all the way down the Garden of Gethsemane. It takes about 30 minutes. It's pretty steep. And then after you leave if you kept on going, you'd be in the Jehoshaphat, the Valley of Jehoshaphat, in a matter of 10 minutes after you left the Garden of Gethsemane. And then if you kept going, you could turn to the right and go up the valley of the Kidron Valley, or you could turn left and go to the field of blood, or the valley of the slaughter, where all the children were sacrificed. So this is the area of Israel. Very interesting area. Why am I bringing this up to you? I'm bringing it up because in a broader sense, you have to say, what's going to happen here in this agreement that's being done? Well, there's several things going to happen. But if we look at prophecy, we're on the brink. When they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh. We're on the brink of several things that could happen. We could go into Ezekiel 38, war. We could go into a expansion of the Abraham Accords with other nations joining and become the covenant of many, the peace deal signed in the Bible. We could, in that peace deal, could be the agreement for the Jews to build the third temple. And also in that deal could be, and a second state established called Palestine. That could happen. God doesn't want that. Plainly in the book of Joel, chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, God says, I'll bring the whole world down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will plead with the world, don't part my land. Don't do this to my heritage, Israel. He will plead with them there. Okay? So we're close. We're so close to all of those possible scenarios. And of course, the destruction of Damascus could happen in the meantime because Syria is completely a Wild Wild West show. And Lebanon just got a new president. We're not sure what he'll do. He might be wanting to sign in on the Abraham Accords. I think he will. I think Saudi Arabia will. And then if Saudi Arabia does, then I think Kuwait will. Qatar will. Lebanon will. And who knows, maybe even Iraq. I don't think Iraq's really ready yet. And maybe a 3 or 4 others, and maybe even some in Africa. This thing will expand. It will become a covenant with many. Maybe even, who knows, maybe even France and the United Kingdom, and maybe even Germany for all we know. There may be, or the whole European Union for all I know. This covenant with many, though, is going to happen. It could happen in this 4-year period that we're going into. It could happen within a year. Or it could be pushed out and the Gog and Magog war of Ezekiel 38 breaks loose. And we have to go through that process first before the covenant with many gets signed. So either way, we can't stop it. We're not going to stop prophecy. We watch it and we keep looking up. Jesus said, when you see these things coming to pass, don't go run and hide, but stand there and look up. And lift up your head, for your redemption is drawing nigh. I've been on here preaching and teaching and talking with you, and we have the greatest online church in the world, the first ever online church in the world. We've seen so many people saved. It's really miraculous. It's a miracle, and many people healed from the blankets. Heidi has been so instrumental in making sure that these Rachel's Heart prayer blankets get sent for free to every person out there that's hurting and in need of a miracle here in America, in the 48 states. And also the Bibles, thousands of individual Bibles we've sent to people, all of it for free. All the anointed prayer cloths for people for healing, all of that for free. All the chemo caps going out to people going through chemotherapy, radiation, or some other treatments. All of that's been done for free. All of that gets done for free. And we can do it because of our faithful partners, this amazing online church, you. And we're going to be celebrating our 15th anniversary here online on March the 1st, 2025. We went live. God told me to do it. I didn't think it would work. I didn't know what God was doing. And I wanted to do things my way. And he said, you're not going to do it your way. You're going to do it my way. And you're going to get on there every day. And specifically, he told me YouTube. Now we've expanded into other platforms now. But specifically, he said, you're going to get on there every day. You're going to look right at that camera. You're going to pretend there's 1,000 people there. And you're going to tell them what's happening in the current world events and how they relate to the biblical prophecies. And you're going to do it every day. You report on what's happening every day, because every day we come ever so closer to the coming of the Lord. And here we are, almost 15 years later and almost 17,000 videos later, over 450 television shows, and countless conferences and revivals. And here we are, looking, staring at a prophetic moment like none other. We are really, folks, fortunate to be alive. Oh, there's been a lot of misery. There's been horrible hurricanes and tornadoes, and we've lived through the floods. We've lived through the devastations of wars, the terrorist attacks. We've lived through a lot of stuff, all of which we were told was going to happen in the last days, the birthing pains of the coming of the Lord. And so we will be celebrating our 15th anniversary, and we couldn't do it alone. We have to do it, all of us together. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being so kind and so faithful in your giving and your prayers and your attendance. And right now, there it is. 1,091 people are here. It's kind of miraculous how God does what he does. The devil's in the details, folks. So in the next few days, maybe even the next few weeks, and I would think this thing's going to, because I don't see Hamas letting go of that second phase or third phase without they're going to try so hard to hang on to power in the Gaza Strip. And Trump knows that he can't let them have that. Netanyahu knows that he can't let them have that. But the rest of the world is going to try to twist the arms to get that done. This is an incredible moment. We're in the end times. We're in the last days. Tonight, I'll be with Melvin Whittington at ffctv.church, 7 o'clock.
Can you hear Jerusalem's cry? Can you see the storm on the rise? Look around, you can't deny this is the hour of heaven's time. Armies gathering in the east for the war that's soon to come. Death will march with the beast, so seek the light and walk with the sun. Soon we'll see his wrath come down and the Lord descending from the sky. When you hear the trumpet sound, God has answered Jerusalem's cry. sky. When you hear the trumpet sound, God has answered Jerusalem's cry. God has answered Jerusalem's cry. Soon the dead in Christ shall rise and join him in the sky. Even unbelievers will see God has answered Jerusalem's cry. God has answered Jerusalem's cry.
You know, what a powerful prophetic song. It was written by Matt Hagee, John Hagee's son, Matt Hagee, and Randy Travis. The two of them sat down together and wrote a song, Jerusalem's Cry. And now, boy, how prophetic is that? And I recorded it. It's on my album, The Journey. You can get that at my website. So here we are. Now, I posted earlier today a 7-minute video of when I was in Israel 8 years ago, standing on Mount Zion. And behind me, you can see the iconic Dome of the Rock, the Temple Mount, and even the wall where they're praying. I'm standing there. It was in the nighttime, and I'm talking about the two-state solution that the world's trying to force onto Israel. And really, when I read the Bible, unfortunately, it looks like that's what they do. It looks like eventually the world forces some type of two-state solution. It could be the United Nations does it. It could be that Israel agrees to it as their only way to get to build their third temple. You know, I'm not sure. But Jesus knew that the abomination of desolation was coming. He knew that when the Antichrist walked in that temple, it was going to be unbelievable persecution on Jews and Christians. So when you read Matthew 24, you see where Christians and Jews are hunted by the beast, okay? And Jesus even tells the Jews to flee into the wilderness, okay? And where in the book of Revelation, in the 12th chapter of Revelation, it tells you that the woman who gives birth to the man-child, which of course is the Messiah. So Israel, who gave birth to Jesus Christ, they have to flee into the wilderness for 3.5 years. But the eagle keeps flying over, protecting those Jews that are hiding in the wilderness. And Jesus said that those Jews that run are running from the West Bank. They're running from Judea and Samaria. And right now, 1 million Jews live in the West Bank, along with about 1.5 million Palestinians. So this is, you can see how miraculous the prophecies of the Bible. And Joel says, God pleads with the world one more time not to part his land. But apparently they do. Apparently the beast forces it. And of course, that's going to usher in the Antichrist, which of course is going to bring about Jesus Christ. And where exactly does the rapture fit in that? Well, probably before, certainly I think before it gets way out of control. Certainly before, let's put it this way, absolutely before the wrath of God. So you could just say this, pre-wrath. There's no question. Exactly the day or the hour, nobody knows the day or the hour. So it would be wrong to just try to pick a theology. But it's easy to say this. We all can agree to this, that we've not been appointed unto wrath. Okay? We are not. The church is not. We're leaving before God pours out his wrath. But where we fit in these events, that's up for debate. And you don't need to lose your salvation over it. You just need to understand that we're not sure. Just like I said, look how many things could happen. We could go into Ezekiel 38, or we could get the covenant with many signed, or we could see a forced two-state solution, or we could see the third temple built, Or we could see the Antichrist rise. We could see the implementation of the Mark of the Beast System 666, because all of these things are on the table. Which one comes first, the chicken or the egg? That's the question. But one thing's for sure, when you see these things coming to pass, he said, look up, lift up your head, your redemption is drawing nigh. Church, get ready. The rapture is about to happen. And I don't know the day or the hour, but I can tell you this, I can see the day approaching. And matter of fact, there is a scripture that tells me this. He says, pray, and this is also Matthew 24. I believe it's verse 36. He says, pray that you be worthy to escape the hour of temptation that comes upon the earth. Well, what exactly that is that hour? Well, there's a lot of debate. It could be the hour of the implementation of the mark of the beast. I'm not sure. I could come up with about 7 different scenarios. But one thing I know for sure, everything that the Bible says is going to happen in the end times is on the table. It's on the table. And they're going to come together like pieces of a prophecy puzzle. And we're here, and we got to be about the Father's business, and we have to be ready because Christ is coming back. Guys, I'm going to let you go. I'll see you tonight at 7 o'clock. I'll be with Pastor Melvin Whittington at ffctv.church. It will be a great program, no doubt about it. Actually, also, I'll be interviewing in that program. We'll be talking about a lot of stuff, I'm sure of this, but I'll also be interviewing in that program Pastor A.C. Cordell from Detroit, Michigan. And so he's been to Israel 5 times since Israel was attacked on October 7th. So there's some really interesting things going on. You don't want to miss the program tonight at 7 o'clock. I'll see you at ffctv.church. God bless all of you. We love you. Are you serious? And if anything else happens big, I'll come back. Are you serious? I'll work till midnight tonight. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm in it to win it. And I want you to win it too. God bless. If my health can hold up, of course. Praise God.